Yeah, I saw again with the WNBA. I guess it was over the All-Star weekend, which I didn't even really know. All-Star the All-Star game for the NBA was played in Indy, and All-Star game the All-Star game for the WNBA is also played in the same city. So I didn't actually follow that or know that. But anyway, um, WNBA stars were wearing shirts that said "Pay us what you owe us." And I've talked about the WNBA before, and it's kind of just getting annoying. The level of entitlement that is on display from the WNBA. It just complete lack of self-awareness. It's like no understanding of business or how the money actually works. And I think what I said before when I talked about this, because I initially commented on what Michael Porter Jr. was saying about the WNBA, and I believe that was last year, is that it's just kind of niche. The WNBA is kind of niche, and it's a niche sport, and it's gained some traction over the last year and a half, but it's kind of just a niche sport, and you can't really expect the payouts to be anything approaching what you would see in the NBA. And it's like, well, we're not even expecting them to be paid like NBA players. We just want to be paid what we're due. We want what's coming to us, right? We want what is owed to us. Well, okay. Well, you guys, the WNBA has not been able to generate money like ever. So it's not a matter of, well, they've been withholding money from them, or they've been treating them unfairly. It's like the fair thing in the realm of business, the fair thing would be that the WNBA does not exist at all, because it exists because of the fact that it's subsidized by the NBA. And if you just want to look at it from the numbers, we'll take a look at this. Take a look at this article here. And this is an article from the New York Post last year in October by Josh Kosman and Brian Lewis. While the WNBA is getting sellout crowds for the finals between the New York Liberty and Minnesota Lynx, the league owners, this is the New York Post again, um, the league's owners will not be making a return on their investment for the foreseeable future. The NBA owns nearly 60% of the league. When one combines the NBA owners' personal stakes in WNBA teams and the WNBA itself, the amount rises to 75%. A source with a direct knowledge of the numbers said Caitlin Clark raised interest in the WNBA, but it is still going to lose 40 million this season. So this is talking about last year. NBAE via this just for the pictures there. The NBA team owners have invested hundreds of millions in the WNBA since its 1996 formation. Per sources, the WNBA owes the NBA so much we won't see any windfall for years. An NBA team executive told the Post. This season, the WNBA will lose $40 million, a bit better than the $50 million forecast and reported by several media outlets months ago, but still a loss, sources said. Starting in the 2026 season, the WNBA will get up to 2.2 billion over 11 years as part of the new basketball media contracts. Okay, so it looks like they are due for an upgrade in terms of this deal here that they're getting ready to get next season, basketball media contracts. So they are going to get a bit of an upgrade, but again, this is coming up. You haven't got there yet. So whatever this new contract is going to give them, it's like fine. If they're able to get a new deal or get a new contract that's going to allow them to make more money in the end, then that's fine. That's great. It's like it's if an influx of cash brings about an increased salary for the WNBA players, like I don't care. Like that's not the point. The point is if you're operating on a business model, you have to understand and realize that the WNBA has not been able to sustain itself since what the article say 1996. I can't I don't know if that's when the WNBA started, but it's basically been 30 years and we're still waiting for a profit. We're still waiting for a return on investment here. And I think it's very foolish for the top players in the league to come out and wear t-shirts saying, "Pay us what you owe us," when we don't owe you anything. And I understand that this is from a money perspective. This is from a league perspective. They're saying that we deserve increased contracts, we deserve more money. And so I understand that it's the financial aspect of it, but I can't help but take it just as somebody who I'm not even really a fan of the WNBA, but just somebody who is a passive observer, that it's just lecturing. Stop lecturing me about what I owe you. I don't owe you anything. As an observer, as a fan, as somebody who might be passively interested, I don't I don't owe you anything. And this sense of entitlement is it honestly for me, whatever kind of interest that is being generated by Caitlin Clark in the WNBA, it 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 is not worth to me dealing with all the drama and nonsense. Just look at the entitlement. Look at the lack of self-awareness. It's embarrassing. The WNBA and its players, it is embarrassing the way that they have handled all of this. And there are times when I do try and keep up with the NFL and the NBA. I've got a couple guys that I listen to on YouTube, and I do get tired of hearing about the drama. I do get tired of hearing about all the contracts and this guy's holding out, this guy's complaining, and you always hear about LeBron. I get tired of people talking about LeBron and everything that they're trying to do with him. And so I do get tired of hearing about the drama generally speaking, but the payoff is that I get to see the best athletes in the world. The payoff is I get to see the best possible version of football and the best possible version of basketball. The WNBA at best is the second best source of basketball out there. And when I talked about this last year, I ranked the outlets for basketball in terms of how interesting they are or how good they are. And I'm pretty sure I ranked the WNBA all the way at the bottom because at the time, it's like you have the NBA, then you have men's college basketball, then you have women's college basketball, which can be really popular because of people like Caitlin Clark and because you have UConn and the dominance and all of these different things. And then you have the WNBA. It's like the interest in the WNBA is all the way down here. It's like the one of the worst outlets for basketball. And that's probably changed a little bit, and I don't know how the NIL is going to affect college basketball long term, but Caitlin Clark has brought some fans to the WNBA. But again, at the end of the day, it's second best. And and if you're second best, and if you're struggling to make a profit, and you're not in the positive, and you're not making an impact financially, you don't get to lecture me. And you don't get to beg for money. You don't get to say, "Pay us what you owe us." We don't owe you anything. Nobody owes you anything because you have not been able to generate anything. And it's just embarrassing. It's embarrassing. The lack of self-awareness is embarrassing. And it's kind of like when you watch the Olympics, you have all of these random sports that nobody ever follows, that nobody ever watches. And for a 2-week span, maybe we'll cheer for them, right? You watch Team USA, fencing, yeah, curling, yeah, we're into it. Badminton, United States badminton, yeah, we love it. We love United States badminton for like 2 weeks whenever the Olympics is on. But it would be pretty dumb and very entitled. It'd be a very entitled approach to take if the players that were playing badminton for the US, while they're warming up, to wear shirts that says, "Pay us what you owe us," because we would be sitting there like as the viewer going, "We don't owe you anything." Why? Because you play badminton. That's why. Because nobody cares about you unless you're in the Olympics. And a lot of those Olympic sports, unless you're like the top 1 or 2 players or 1 or 2 athletes in that sport, you don't really make anything. And you certainly don't get the kind of attention that the stars in the NBA and in the NFL, you can have multiple stars. You can have a seemingly an unlimited amount of stars. But you get to talk about all these other niche sports in the Olympics. There's only really the top 1 or 2 guys. And then everybody else is just nobody cares about you. You don't get the deals, you don't get the attention, you don't get the medals, you don't get the praise. Who cares about the bronze medalist in the 100-meter men's freestyle swimming? Who cares? Nobody cares about that guy. And so it'd be very odd and in my opinion foolish for the players and the athletes involved in those niche sports to go around complaining about the fact that they don't make money. It's like it's not my fault you chose curling as a sport. It's not my fault that you chose that as a way of life. At the end of the day, this is a business, and if the business you're in cannot generate any money, I don't owe you anything. Nobody owes you anything. And the same is true of the WNBA. And I'm kind of beginning to feel like that the WNBA is somewhat like those niche sports where you have Caitlin Clark and she's famous and she's this huge star and everything, and then everybody else is just kind of eh. It was just kind of nobody really cares. And it's like the entire sport is being carried by this one person. Now I understand that there are rivalries and you have Angel Reese, but nobody would probably be talking about Angel Reese if Caitlin Clark was not there as like the opposition, right? She would just be another player in the WNBA. But anyway, the lack of self-awareness is very off-putting to me. The entitlement, the begging, the lecturing, pay us what you owe us. Ridiculous, ridiculous. And there are people that have come to the defense of the WNBA recently because of all the controversy that's been generated by these shirts. And I think people like Dave Portnoy and even Pat McAfee, they're like, yeah, it's like they deserve to be, they need to be paid more. It's like, look, the difference is that with people like Dave Portnoy and Pat McAfee, that's their wheelhouse. That's the domain in which they are in. And so the WNBA matters to them way, way more than the vast majority of people, I would say. Especially somebody like Dave Portnoy. It's like this guy's throwing around bets worth thousands and thousands of dollars on everything. And he has Barstool Sports and Pat McAfee is always talking about sports and has different sports figures on a show. That is their domain. And so if the WNBA is relevant, then that helps them produce content and that helps them stay relevant as well because then they can talk about it. It's another sport, it's another atmosphere in which they can give their take and give their opinion. And so it probably matters to them that the WNBA players are happy, that they're satisfied, and that the WNBA is popular because it adds content to their own whatever they're trying to do. The Barstool Sports or the Pat McAfee show. It adds content for them. But for me, it's just some random guy who's a casual fan of sports generally, and certainly isn't really interested in the WNBA at all. Don't lecture me about stuff. Don't tell me you deserve this and you deserve that when you can't even turn a profit. And I think I think that there is just it, it's like that because it's the WNBA and because they've been overlooked for so long, now that they finally get a little bit of attention, they finally get a little bit of success, they just wanna take it all, man. They just wanna take it all. It's like, "It doesn't work like that. You guys have barely been able you haven't even put together back-to-back relevant seasons yet. And so you don't get to say what you're owed or any of this. It's not my fault you chose to be a WNBA player. It's not my fault that the WNBA as a business sucks in terms of generating profit. So I think the WNBA will be a much better off once all the players just kind of learn to be a little bit more self-aware, like all of the other athletes and all of these other sports that I was talking about earlier. And then once their new media deals kick in next year, give them more money. Like, I don't care. I'm not like into withholding money from people, dishonestly, but I'm also not into just simply giving money and giving attention where it's not really deserved. And in the case of the WNBA, from a financial perspective, whatever they're kind of expecting isn't necessarily deserved because their league doesn't generate any money. But it's just off-putting to me. It's not interesting to me. And one of the guys that I listen to when he talks about football, and he often talks about the off season and different players and players holding out and players that cause trouble, every season or every off season, somebody gets in trouble, they get a DUI or something like that. And what he this is the way he puts it. He says, there has to be a payoff in terms of talent. And so the more talented you are, the more trouble you can cause and get away with it. And we've seen it many times over with players in the NBA, with players in the NFL, where you listen to stories about the locker room like Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown, because it was the Steelers organization and they're very serious and they probably a little bit more secretive. We don't know what happened in the Steelers organization when Antonio Brown was there, but we do know that he's just kind of crazy, right? But he has an insane amount of talent and he was insanely productive. So you know what? You kind of just deal with it. You kind of just have to deal with it. And so the talent to drama ratio has to be the proper amount. Otherwise, you're just going to get cut. It's like, yeah, you're a decent player and maybe you can add some value to the field, but your off the field nonsense is just nonstop. And you're immature and you're a distraction, and we don't need distractions. We're professional athletes. We don't need distractions. So we're cutting you. We're trading you. We don't want to deal with it anymore. And to me, it's also true when you're talking about it from the perspective of a consumer. And so me, I'm a casual sports fan. I am a consumer. And do I kind of roll my eyes at the drama that takes place in the NFL and the NBA? Yeah. LeBron's drama all the time? Yeah. But you know what? And I roll my eyes at it. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's the best product. The NBA is the best product. The NFL is the best product. And I get to see amazing athletes doing amazing things. And so, you know what? I'm kind of willing to put up with some of the drama. I'm kind of willing to put up with some of the stuff that I don't understand when they go into talking about listening the NBA draft swaps and the cap and all this. Just like I have no idea what anybody's talking about. I don't understand any of this. I'm willing to deal with the stuff that I don't understand, and I'm willing to deal with the drama because I get a good payoff in terms of product. The WNBA, it's not a good enough product for me to listen to all this crap. And so I don't care. I don't care how the players feel. I don't care that they feel like they're owed more. And they're operating on margins like this, like this. Okay, their margin for error is this. And so if they don't get their act together, then they're just gonna turn away all the people that could potentially be interested because I'm just like, I don't feel like I need to be lectured. I don't feel like I need to deal with the entitlement. I don't want to deal with the drama. And so I'm just not going to watch. And you know what? That's going to result in them not getting a lot of money. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I don't really care. And and the lack of self-awareness is just It's annoying. It's annoying to say the least. But uh, more Epstein, more Epstein file stuff. I came across this video. Asmongold, I don't know. Okay, I know who this guy is, but I don't know. I know he's a content creator, but I don't know if um, he has plays video games or is just does reactions or whatever. But I randomly came across one of his videos and I wanted it's just like a 2-minute video and I wanted to watch it and it just popped up in my feed. Apparently, he's fallen into some politics here lately, and I think I think that happens with a number of different people sometimes. Like they play video games or they do trailer breakdowns or something. Then all of a sudden they just like, oh, I'm getting involved in politics now, but which is fine. I mean, you can do whatever you want. But um, one of his clips popped up in my feed, and so I wanted to take a look at that.
Oh, shit. Exclusive. The Justice Department told President Trump in May that his name is among many in the Epstein files. What does this mean? Bondi also told the president at a meeting that the justice decided not to release more Jeffrey Epstein documents because of the presence of child pornography and the need to protect victims. That's total bullshit. They could have censored that out. Nobody was asking for that in the beginning. They discovered Donald Trump's name appeared multiple times, according to senior administration officials. In May,
wait a moment, this was last May.
Time to drop the really big ball. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That's the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, Donald Trump. Mark this post for the future. The truth will come out. If Trump was implicated in those files, the media and Democrats wouldn't have dropped that nuke. So you bring up a very good point. If Trump was actually implicated in these files, why didn't the Democrats drop it? And do you want to know the reason why, I think? It's because they were implicated too. The accelerationist in me hopes that at the end of the day, this causes the Epstein files to get released. Now he has to prove that it isn't true. Here's the problem, though. If Trump shows the Epstein files, a lot of people are going to say that it's fake. How can we trust the Trump administration to be able to do this authentically when the biggest thing that they ran on, they're not releasing? And I think that's a big problem. Would you want Trump to be impeached if he's in the Epstein files? No, I'd want people to go to jail. If Trump is found to be involved in the Epstein files and he was involved with any sort of human trafficking of anyone, not even including of anyone of any age, especially underage people, then no, I want him to go to jail. Like, I don't care about impeachment. Who cares about impeachment? Trump got impeached twice and nothing happened. Jail him? Yeah, but then you need Bill Clinton in jail? How about this? How about everybody goes to jail that did bad stuff with underage people? How about that? I think that's a really good idea. So what if we did this crazy thing where anybody who commits sex crimes against people who are underage goes to jail? What? They all go to jail. How about that?
If you think it might...
Yeah, so I don't know. I've seen some clips from him here recently, and I don't know if I can be a good judge of his political content or not. But I know what he is saying. Like that's the simplest answer. Just everybody goes to jail. But what other where else can you really stand on that? And is that not the obvious answer? Here's the thing. Is just, everybody, how about I like what he said, just everybody goes to jail. How about that? What about this person? What about that person? How about everybody goes to jail? How about everybody just, we're throwing them all in prison? I think again, that is just the simplest answer. Here's the thing, and here's something that I've noticed just ever since I started following politics a little bit more closely than I used to. Here's what normally happens, okay? And let's just say that it's the left or it's the right. It happens on both sides, okay? let's say the right does something bad, and then the left is making, having a whining fit about it. Okay. Or the right does something questionable. The left says, well, they should get punished for that. And the people on the right say, well, there were people on the left that did this, 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 and this. And it was similar to this situation. So that's why the people on the right can do it. Okay. And then let's say that somebody on the left does something questionable, and people on the right are having a fit, and they say, this person on the left, they need to get in trouble for this. Well, the people on the left go, well, yeah, but Trump did this, and then people on the right did this, and conservatives will say this when their own people are doing that. And so that's how I feel like I legitimately feel like that is 90% of political arguments. Somebody does something bad, the people on the opposite side point it out. The people on the side of the person that does something bad said that somebody on the opposite side did something similar, so that's why they can get away with it. And that I feel like that's 90% of political arguments that I hear. And I'm being, of course, I'm being a little bit over dramatic about that, but I feel like that's normally how it goes. And oftentimes when you sit down and you listen to debates, a lot of times it just devolves into the whatever kind of defense that somebody is bringing. It's always just pointing out that the side that they are defending against did similar things. And it's kind of similar when you look at what Trump did. So let's take what Trump did in the case of bombing Iran. Well, people came out and they were saying, well, Trump did not get the approval of Congress before he bombed Iran, so therefore he deserves to be impeached. And this is stuff that I saw on social media. But you can go back and you can look at things that Obama did during his administration and different strikes that he authorized without the approval of Congress. And instead of just saying, and so that is used as the defense, right? That is the defense. Well, Trump did something bad. Okay, well, Obama did like a similar thing. And that's usually the defense of it. And again, that's how it seems to be. That's how most political discussions go. And it is kind of frustrating. But I think that he's right. I think that Asmongold is correct. It's like, how about this? Why don't we just send everybody to jail? Just send everybody to jail. Now, I will say one thing. I do think that this is turning into something that's way more complicated than what a lot of people were expecting. Um, and honestly, it's kind of like, shame on me or shame on us for thinking that it was going to be simple. Because I think that given what was being said about the Epstein files before the whole Trump administration thing, uh, the Trump administration situation, it was like that we have the Epstein files, we're going to release the Epstein files. Everybody in the Epstein files they're going to be outed. They're going to come into the light. Basically, the truth will come into the light, and all the people in the Epstein files are going to go to jail. And it was going to be painless. It was going to be quick. It was going to be simple. And it's just like, of course, it's not going to be. Of course, it's not going to be. And, shame on me for thinking that, and shame on us for thinking that, because of course, this is extremely complicated, and the ramifications of it are going to be extremely complicated as well. But, but I do think his simple answer, and we're not going to do the he did this or they did that, the left did this, the right did that. It's like everybody goes to jail. Everybody goes to jail. That's the simplest answer, and that's the correct answer. If you're involved in these human trafficking things, just go to jail. Let's just go to jail. That's the answer to this. And so I don't know. I don't know. I think I said last time I did a video and was reviewing some of the Epstein stuff that it's just a time bomb at this point. We're waiting. There's new information that's coming out. There seems to be every other day more info about the Epstein files, but we're not actually getting the Epstein files. And so uh it's a rope-a-dope. It's this huge waiting game. And um I think the American people want the truth. I don't think that I don't think that this whole, yeah, we'll just, we're just kind of like piddling around and we're just not going to just let's get on with it, right? Let's see it. All the things that we've been hearing, all of our expectations, let's see it. Let's see it. Let's see what's actually going on. Let's see who's actually in these files, please.